Can we not just have nice things? Can we not win a match without someone's ankle just being turned into a fidget spinner? Alexander Isak, I want to run to you. I'm so tired, man. No, literally, I woke up like an hour and a half ago maximum. The bags under my eyes could fit your entire Tesco shopping trip in them, and I look like absolute shit. But you could be forgiven for thinking that I'm just overall stressed about Liverpool's striking situation, because after a British transfer record fee, followed by a slow start to the season, Alexander Isak was under massive pressure at Liverpool. That combined with his rival in the starting 11, Hugo Ekitike's sensational performances, when it looked like Alexander Isak's debut season was going to be one to forget. But maybe some confidence is starting to arrive. And when Xavi Simons decided to join Al Qaeda for Tottenham, a chance presented itself off the bench. A goal for Alexander Isak, but truly at what cost? As a feared broken leg now threatens to end his season before it really got underway. This Alexander Isak experience is even worse than we thought. I'm convinced they're cursed, lads, because the universe completely falls apart when Arne Slot tries to play Hugo Ekitike and Alexander Isak at the same time. We'll talk about the Tottenham game in isolation first, and then we'll chat about Alexander Isak's season and, of course, the injury that he's now picked up. But let's be honest, man, any game that involves Spurs or Liverpool is just carnage from the outset. And this game would be no exception. I mean, I actually think, personally, in the grand scheme of the game, Tottenham probably deserved to get something out of it, like a draw or something, but honestly, then again, both teams probably deserve to lose based on that first 35 minutes. That is genuinely some of the worst association football that I've ever seen. They weren't even checking Xavi Simons' challenge, by the way. You know, when it came up on the screen saying serious foul play, they were just investigating the whole game, because the whole game could be categorized as serious foul play. I mentioned Xavi Simons. He could be seen charging down Virgil van Dijk on his way to discombobulate his Achilles. He doesn't want to be in North London anymore. It's not all worked out, lads. I'll be real.
I hate it here!
Richarlison scored a goal in this one, and we all know what that means. Genuinely, if I'm Thomas Frank, I would actually just be fuming if I saw Richarlison score, because you know you're about to taste more defeat than Paul Scholes. It's gonna be a wrap already. Imagine the accolades Richarlison would have won if, like, no football matches ever mattered, because he would score in all of them. But of course, another man who scored in this game was Alexander Isak. With Spurs down to 10 men, Florian Wirtz grabbed the ball, played in his fellow £100 million man, and Alexander Isak was there to tuck the ball into the back of the net. It felt like one of the first goals, well, that he scored for us generally, and that's because it was. What I was going to say was the first goal that he scored that felt like an Alexander Isak goal. We're not going to see any of those for a while, because during the finish, during him putting the ball in the back of the net, Mickey van der Ven slid across to try and block it, or Alexander Isak's foot underneath him, and genuinely, I don't know if I'm even going to show it, but one of the angles that I've seen, his whole foot is just the wrong way round. It's actually insane. Not like, you know, those like horrific injuries where it's like Eduardo or Aaron Ramsey that time for Arsenal, but like, you know, his ankle's probably broken or something like that, which is bad. Yeah, it's not ideal. I'm gonna say it now, you know, get well soon. I don't think we're gonna see him much more for the rest of the season. I mean, the saving grace is it's December. We might see him in like May or something, like right at the end of the campaign, but it's just so devastating given maybe there's a bit of confidence there that might have been finally the goal, kind of like to drive a little bit of momentum into Alexander Isak's season. You know, obviously there was the goal against West Ham, which was a really nice finish, but again, this felt like an actual Alexander Isak goal. Like, we finally got Florian Wirtz getting an assist for Alexander Isak, and Alexander Isak had to sacrifice his entire left leg in the process. I'm convinced that Alexander Isak has been cursed by some sort of shaman in the Newcastle area. He has been dealt with the almost almighty of juju since, like, leaving St James's Park. Because the reality of his season, you know, I talked about the Southampton goal, the West Ham goal, the goal against Tottenham, but for large portions of the campaign, his highlights have not been very good. Alexander Isaac Newton was discovering the laws of relativity. Relatively shit overall. The footballing gods saw our big money men combine and said, not today. You guys can't have that. And our physios are watching our £150 million man hobble into the medical department. Our medical department got overworked in this game, by the way, like crazily. Connor Bradley got injured. We brought on Alexander Isak. He got injured. We brought on Jeremy Frimpong. He got injured. We brought on Federico Chiesa. Are you insane? And a decent portion of that was aggression from Spurs. Now, I think Tottenham got unlucky with some refereeing decisions in this game. The ref may as well have slid one into the back of the net himself and done a knee slide afterwards. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you. We definitely got lucky with a couple of decisions, but I also do think Tottenham just didn't help themselves. Like, Christian Romero can hold that. I'm gonna be honest, just for being an over-emotional wassy for the entirety of the game. The challenge on Frimpong that got him substituted was crazy. The Bradley one was unfortunate, and to be fair, I also do think the Van der Veen one, I saw someone say that was a horror challenge. Let's be honest, if Isak's injury isn't that, no one is even taught. If he just like twists his ankle based on that challenge, no one's saying that's a horror challenge. He's just come over to try and block the ball. He's not meant it. He's not meant to break Alexander Isak's leg. Obviously, with that, it's a last-ditch defensive maneuver. He knows that Isak's through on goal. He's got to throw his entire body at it to try and get in the way. Unfortunately, Isak's foot just gets caught under his body. It's not him trying to injure anybody, but some of the other challenges were poor. I'm not gonna lie to you. And, you know, I know, again, they're probably frustrated with how bad some of the refereeing decisions were. I don't think the Ekatike one actually was a foul. If I'm being honest, I think you've just got to be stronger than that as a centre-back, really, in an aerial duel. But I can understand maybe if you thought he had two hands on his back. But then Romero kicks out at Canate and gets himself sent off. You're 2-1 down. Like, Romero genuinely falls apart when he's got to use his brain to try and get back into a football match. Again, overworking our physios over the Christmas period, that's just inhumane. And I thought as well, another thing that I thought was like kind of embarrassing, to be honest with you, was Rodrigo Bentancur getting down and like shouting at Alexander Isak whilst he's on the floor with a broken leg. I'm not being funny. I don't even really know what the logic is there. Like, the guy's just scored. Why would he's not trying to get your boy sent off? He's not trying to win himself a penalty. The ball's already in the net. You don't have to shout. He's clearly actually injured. But either way, I think overall, as I said, it was just a shame, really, to be honest. The game was chaos, and I'm glad we won. You know, listen, lads, all I'm saying is we're 10 points off Arsenal. I'm here to believe. I don't believe at all. But Arsenal fans, yeah, don't forget about us. Just, yeah, I swear that, I promise this is going to be a series.
This guy's too funny, enough.
But was that truly going to be a turning point for Alexander Isak? And I mean, I guess we'll never truly know. You know, there'd been some horror shows up to this point, really. As I said again, you know, there was the goal against Southampton, there was the goal against West Ham, which I felt was actually maybe the turning point, because that was actually a really nice finish as well. Maybe gives him a little bit of confidence. It's a bit of a snapshot almost. But again, like some of the displays, Galatasaray in the Champions League, Palace, he was awful against Frankfurt, even though he scored 5 goals in the game. Leeds, Sunderland, PSV, Nottingham Forest was about the pinnacle of really not looking good. And then again, form even for Sweden as well. Sweden have been struggling so disastrously on the international stage recently. Then again, he's got Graham Potter as his manager, so we've got to let him, like, got to allow him there. No, I'm joking. But like, overall, the season had been so poor. And for a man that's going to be worth £150 million, you've absolutely got to be doing more. But unfortunately, he kind of put himself in this position by refusing to play for Newcastle over the summer and refusing to give himself a pre-season. You know, a pre-season is so important in the modern era. You know, I think back in when we were kids, right? Or, well, I'd say I'm an unk, right? When I was a kid, anyway, like 20 years ago, I feel like football was a lot less physical, running, a lot more technical. And I think missing a pre-season anywhere up to about 2018 wouldn't have been that bad. Like, it would take you about 5-6 games maybe to get up to speed. Now you are chasing till Feb. Like, genuinely, if you miss an entire pre-season, you are going to be behind everybody fitness-wise till about February. And that was painfully obvious at the start of the season that Alexander Isak was going to be struggling with that. You know, he's just jumping into a team in flipping right at the end of August / the start of September, and he's not played since May. Like, he's not going to be sharp whatsoever. And then the problem with that is it's then a constant cycle where obviously he's not got that sharpness now, so he's not going to be performing very well. But he's also going to be struggling to actually get to the end of 90 minutes, which means that he's only playing 60 minutes every week at maximum, maybe even only 45, which again slows down how much sharpness and how much fitness he's actually able to obtain in comparison to other players that he's coming up against who are actually playing 90 minutes every week, maybe even twice a week. And I'm not making excuses for him. I'm just saying that that's the reality, and it ultimately comes from the way in which he left Newcastle United. Newcastle fans, I'm sure, are loving the way that his season's gone. Hopefully they're not loving the fact that he's injured because he's broken his leg. But I'm sure they're enjoying the fact that he was very, very slow to get up to speed. For us, it's a weird one because obviously I wouldn't even say it's necessarily a system thing because Hugo Ekitike is getting the most out of our system. But I do, in fairness, think that we've been so frustrating to watch going forward, like for a large portion of this season. Things have definitely improved a little bit recently. I still would say we've been a little bit fortunate to a degree against like the likes of Brighton and Spurs. Spurs probably deserved a bit more out of the game. Brighton just missed so many opportunities that made it look like it was a simple victory for us. Defensively, we've got to improve. But going forward, we've actually looked a little bit better in the most recent month. But I think what I found kind of interesting about Isak is that his actual underlying stats are pretty bad. Not horrific, but they're definitely not as good as you would expect them to be. I've seen people talk about Alexander Isak being injury prone. I personally don't think that he's injury prone, but like actual performance, even whilst he has been fit this season for us, has not been very good. Again, he's not scored very many goals, so he's not going to appear in like high percentiles for goals scored or goals and assists or non-penalty goals because the outright goals haven't been there, right? Or then maybe he's been a little bit unlucky. Maybe he's found himself in goal scoring positions, or maybe he's actually doing well in terms of shots on target, but goalkeepers are saving them. No. In terms of like his shots total, 2.68 per 90, but shots on target is down at 26.7%. So only 1 in 4 of his shots are on target. Now, again, that might just be a system thing where we're not creating good enough chances for him to be able to put them on target. He's shooting from 20 yards instead of like point blank range a lot of the time. That puts him in the lowest 20 percentile of any striker in the league for that. And you don't need to be a genius to know that's bad. 80% of forwards in the league are doing better than that. His non-penalty XG as well takes him more towards like the upper end. There's only 40% of strikers that have more in terms of non-penalty XG than him this season per 90 anyway. So look, I'm not going to go crazily into the stats, but it basically means that he's getting an okay quality of chance on average across the entire season, but then doing relatively badly with them, which is not what you would expect. You'd expect Alexander Isak to be outperforming those sorts of stats with the type of clinical striker that he, you know, usually is and has been for the likes of Sociedad and for Newcastle as well. So in terms of performance, we all know this. In terms of performance, it's not been good. His link-up play, hold-up play hasn't been very good either this season. Comes off the bench, gets a goal, links up with Florian Wirtz, who has been significantly better, to be fair, over the last month as well. And now he's out injured for what will probably be the majority of the season from here. I think at this stage, if you're Alexander Isak, you've almost just got to write this season off now and just go, right, look, this was a fucking shit show. I got unlucky, you know, through lack of fitness and an injury, but I also have got to step up going into next season because you've now got Hugo Ekitike, who's banging in goals every week. He's the joint 3rd highest goal scorer in the league. He's obviously had to compete with Isak as well for game time there. A lot of the strikers that he's around, a lot of the goal scorers there that he's around, he's probably got less in terms of game time. Don't know exactly in terms of minutes, but I would imagine it's less because Isak has taken some game time away from him. So in comparison to Semenyo, Igor Thiago, some of the goal scorers that he's around at the moment. But Hugo Ekitike is like the only signing that we've made who hit the ground running absolutely immediately. As I said, I think Florian Wirtz is starting to get there. We still need more goal contributions out of him. Maybe the door's been unlocked. Of course it was Tottenham, by the way, that actually finally unlocked Florian Wirtz. I don't need to see any more 007 stuff anymore because he's finally got himself on the board, which is good. But now my depression switches from results to just not even being able to watch Alexander Isak even play in a Liverpool shirt particularly. And that is making me chronically, footballingly depressed. But what do you make of Alexander Isak's start to the season and start to life at Liverpool? Because, well, I know how it's going to go. No, I don't think anyone's going to be backing him. But I do wish him a speedy recovery. It was a nasty injury in terms of the way that it happened. Again, I don't think Mickey van der Ven should really hold any sort of criticism. I don't think he meant it as a challenge like that. But it is unfortunate and, you know, it has the potential to maybe change the entire course of Alexander Isak's transfer to Liverpool. £150 million, British transfer record fee. We're basically not going to see him for the entirety of his first season. That's a little bit mental. That, though, is going to wrap up today's video. Like I said, if you have enjoyed, feel free to slap a like on the video. Subscribe if you are new to the channel. You can also follow me on social media. It is at @theofficialfng on Twitter and on Insta. It's been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a wonderful day, enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.